Hey everyone, this is Kyle once again, aka Jurassic Godzilla fan. Welcome back to another review. And the next horror film I'm reviewing is another one of my favorite all-time horror films. Definitely on the top, will be on my top list of my favorite horror films. One that I really do love. Another film I really love, and that is The Relic. The Relic was a film that was released in January 10th, 1997. It opened up #1 in the box office, but it was pretty much a very weak opening up. It only made 900 million on its opening weekend. So, but at least it opened up #1. And it's a film that is directed by Peter Hyams, which I always say this guy is a very unique director. I think he does a really good job of making this certain kind of films. He directed he's more films he's famous for. He directed Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He also directed another film with Van Damme called Sudden Death, like Die Hard and a Hockey Rink. Those are two good Van Damme movies. He directed the comedy film with John Ritter, Stay Tuned. He directed a good thriller film with Gene Hackman, Narrow Margin. Then he directed the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey, 2010, the year we made contact. That's a good, solid sequel. And then he directed another favorite horror film of mine with Arnold Schwarzenegger, End of Days. That's another good film he's directed. These are all, and End of Days and this film, these are the only two horror films he's directed, and they're my favorite on my top list of my favorite horror films of all time. And there was another film called A Sound of Thunder. I really like the idea to A Sound of Thunder, but there was just so many problems with it though. But it could have been a good film, but interesting idea, but it's not though. But he directed that film as well. But I would say this is his best film. End of Days, I would put it at a very close #2. I really would. I really do. But this I would say is my #1 film from Peter Hyams. And the film stars Tom Sizemore and Penelope Ann Miller. Those are right there. And basically the plot is fairly simple. Simple as it can be. It's just you just put a monster and you take a monster and you put it in a museum. There you go. There's your movie. A monster in a museum. I thought it was a cool thing to do, to put a monster in a museum. It's a cool premise, I would say. And you get creature effects by Stan Winston, who did the dinosaurs effect in Jurassic Park. He has done a lot of special effects on a lot of films, but mainly he's mostly famous for doing the effects in Jurassic Park, though. My all-time favorite film. And so we get into the plot. It starts with this guy named John Whitney. He's in Brazil. He's a researcher at the Chicago Museum in Chicago. He's studying this tribe, and he drinks something, and then all of a sudden he starts feeling he's scared and stuff, and as he gets back to the dock where he had this big box of stuff that he was going to send to the museum, but he tells the captain to take it off though, but it's too late though. So he sneaks on there and he finds a box that's marked Chicago, but it's the wrong box. So instead of his box with carpets, and he starts freaking out. But then shit goes back to the real boxes that are still back at the dock. But then later, it's been a couple weeks later, they've been sent to the museum by air freight, sent to the museum. And then a couple weeks later, the ship that he was on has been docked at Chicago, and you have the detective Vincent D'Augusta, played by Tom Sizemore. And Tom Sizemore, you've probably seen him in a lot of films, but mainly also in Saving Private Ryan. I really liked him in Saving Private Ryan, but I thought these two would be his best films, this film and Saving Private Ryan. And he's a detective, and his partner named Hollingsworth, that they're investigating one of the boat. There was blood on the walls, and they can't find any bodies, so they assume there was a killer there, and he dumped the bodies overboard. But then they open up this thing that's underneath for more the beneath the build, I would say, and they open it up and it stinks really bad, and then there's all this kinds of dismembered body parts, there's a head and a torso and torn body parts, and then it cuts into a week later where Penelope Ann Miller, as this researcher, is at the Chicago Museum, and they're at this museum. They're like setting up this exhibition. It's like a superstitious expedition, and where she's like using superstitious to make money. Because she's not superstitious though. But Tom Sizemore's character, he's very superstitious. Like he's sort of like this, like on a ship. His partner gets startled by by a cat, and he's like, "Was it a black cat?" Or there's moments where he sees he's talking later on. She's talking to Penelope Ann Miller. There's a penny on the floor. He's like, "Is a face up? Down. Don't touch face down. It's bad luck." And he carries like this lucky bowl with him, and so that Penelope Ann Miller as this character, Dr. Green, she's a researcher in there, and she has trouble with getting some of this money that she's expecting, but there's another person who's working in the museum who's applying for the same money that she wants, but he already had this, but he's wanting some more. And also he's also talking to Linda Hunt, who's the head I would say the head of the entire museum. You've seen her. She's been mostly known in Kindergarten Cop. She was the principal, and then also in Silverado. And then also you have James Whitmore from the original Planet of the Apes. He's his name Dr. Frock. He's the old guy in the wheelchair. There's Linda Hunt and James Whitmore right there. And he's superstitious too. It's like talking to old Tom Sizemore. He's like, what would a detective want with an old fossil like me? And they talk about the shipment that finally came in from Brazil, and it was nothing but leaves in it though. But Penelope Ann Miller finds like some red stuff on one of the leaves, so she saves it, and then she burns the rest of the leaves. And when the museum is closing, two kids they probably snuck into the museum, wait until after closing, to warn them the museum is by themselves. And also during that, there was one of the guards at the museum going to the bathroom, to smoke a little joint, and he hears a noise, and all of a sudden somebody just grabs him and pulls him under the stall and kills him, off screen though. And the kids they hear something too where they're in the basement, and then it cuts to the next day when the police are investigating, and Tom Sizemore is investigating. They go into the bathroom and they find it was the same smell that they smelled on the boat, head or torn apart, and there's a brain next to the body. And he's telling his partner, no, don't step over it, it's bad luck, I know this is pretty funny. We had to talk about all the superstitious stuff. You tell him not to step over a body, because it's bad luck. Then he's talking to Penelope Ann Miller, telling him about, that, did you know about this guy, and also that guy John Whitney from the beginning, his office was vandalized as well. And then later on he's where Tom Sizemore at the morgue talking with one of the doctors and explaining that the doctor discovered there's a part of a brain that's missing called the hypothalamus that gives hormones, that produces hormones in the human body. And she asked his partner if any of the other parts of the brain are missing from the crew that was on the ship, and same thing as the same thing that was missing from the brain, the hypothalamus. So they're thinking there's the killer still out there, but then two cops are still investigating in the basement of the museum. They shoot a homeless guy that was wielding an axe, and they suspect that he was the killer because he was carrying the dead guy's wallet, and he had blood on him, and he also had one of the belongings for one of the men at the ship. So they're pretty sure this was the guy. But Tom Sizemore says that something's not right. This was not the guy. There's still somebody else. And one of the that guy, who I think was the head of security of the museum, he tells them, no, you have to let this exhibition go on, but he doesn't want to. But then he gets a call of the mayor's telling him that he insisting on still opening the museum, and he's still feeling, wants to keep the museum safe by putting, lots of police out there, but then he's gonna get a team of dogs to sniff out the real culprit, and he found out it's this monster called the Cathoga. It was a Brazilian monster for the tribes to, there was a mythical monster that ate the leaves before they ate the leaves. That was in the box that contains a lot of hormones and it feeds off it. But since it had no more leaves, that's why it's attacking the humans, decapitating them, eating the part of that brain that contains the hormones. And the creature, I thought it looks pretty cool looking, because a while back I ordered one of a modeling kit, like those you put together models. I ordered a model of the creature from the movie, and I still haven't opened it. I think I'll just keep it as like a collector's item, So I still haven't opened it, but I have it stored somewhere. So I just want to point that out, And so Tom Sizemore and his partner are getting a pair of dogs to sniff out. They run, and then we hear one of the dogs whimper, and then the thing just tosses one of the dead dogs at them. But then one of the officers just stupidly wants to go find his other dog, and then he gets killed, and the dog watches, and the thing just sort of lets the other dog live. I don't know why. But then Tom Sizemore follows, and he finds the dog, so he takes the dog with him. And when they're on the opening night, everything's going fine. But then, Penelope Ann Miller and James Whitmore, they were, researching the stuff that was, because earlier, while Penelope Ann Miller was researching on the leaves, a little bug crawled in the box and ate part of the leaf, and it grew very huge, like about this big. And she squashed it, and she's analyzing it and talking to James Whitmore. Wow, look how big this thing has got, because it ate part of the leaves, and it contains the hormones from the human hypothalamus. But they get locked in the sections, because the stupid guy Greg, tells the guy everyone's out of that section, so he locks them all in, because he wants to get the grant for himself. The greedy, And then it was they're in the section where they see the statue of the monster, and there's blood dripping, and then it tosses a body from the ceiling, and it falls, and it starts a huge panic. Everyone's panicking, running, falling on each other, when the revolving door. One woman gets smashed in, and breaks the glass, and everyone's falling down the steps. And then the museum gets locked down, and a lot more people are trapped inside. And two guards in the security office, they get one goes off to see. They find the emergency generator's been fried, and he comes back. The guy's not answering the radio, and he shakes him, and his head just falls back, and then he sees it, but and he gets killed, but you don't see it. Then the lieutenant is telling them, they should stick together and take the stairways to the tunnels out, and they'll come across the street from the museum. But the stupid the security guy, says, I don't care what the lieutenant says. I'm staying here, And then he tells Linda Hunt, he's like, you shouldn't go with him. He says, bullshit, Tom, you're fired. But then when they're still in the entrance hall, he gets killed and he gets decapitated by the monster. And the jerk Greg Lee, he runs off, and he thinks behind him. He looks in the mirror and says, "Oh, But then he sees it comes behind him, and it picks him up and decapitates him and kills him. Yeah, you're a jerk. You deserve to die. But then when they're in the tunnels, the rest of the survivors are in the tunnels. Hollingsworth, he's telling he's leading the mayor and Linda Hunt and the rest of the people out of there, and he tells one of his cop partners to watch his back, and he hears something. You see it? No, and he gets dragged into the water, and he's decapitated, and he kills another woman too. And that's it. And well, even though the main problem is, if anyone's seen the film, they would say, it's too dark, you can't see barely much of the creature because it's too dark to see. I understand that, but that does not bother me one bit. I can see the monster, even though it's in the dark. I can still see the monster fine though. But even though you can tell they put that in to make it all creepy looking, and make suspenseful with that. By putting it in the dark, you can't see it though. But I can still see it. I can still see fine what the creature looks like. If you can't see what the creature looks like, just look it up online. Type in Cathoga monster and just get a picture of it. You'll see clear as day. And then now, meanwhile, Tom Sizemore, he meets up with Penelope Ann Miller and James Whitmore, and they see the monster, and they shut the door, and it's hitting so hard that you see it's bleeding underneath the door. And they're just trying to figure out how this creature was created. But then they leave James Whitmore behind because he wants to stay there, So they took a sample of the monster's blood. As they're analyzing, they're talking about how Tom Sizemore, he's superstitious because of his good luck bowl, and he tells them that a guy was trying to get into his car because he locked himself out with the keys in it, but he finds out the guy robbed a store, and then he pointed the gun to Tom Sizemore and it didn't go off. And then he says what? And he says it doesn't pop though, this bullet, and it took the gun away from him and beat the shit out of him. But then later says, and the forensic says that the bullet's perfect, it should have fired and he should be dead. And he says maybe so in other words, this miracle of physics, and he says maybe it's just plain old-fashioned good luck. So, but then when the rest of the special, whether it was police or army, I don't know who they were, because they were like in army uniforms. So they come in through the roof, and one at a time, the creature's killing like the first guy. The creature just jumps and just takes the guy right out of the air and decapitates him. And another guy falls down, and he tries to run, and he's decapitated. And another guy's telling the guy, "Help! Pull me up!" But as they pull him up, he's like, but then he lifts him up, half his body is gone. Half his body is gone, and the guy's like, "Ah!" It was just funny. He says, "Ah!" But then later, James Whitmore, he's trying to lock himself in this cage thing where we're a storage space, but he sees a creature and he looks at him. But then when Tom Sizemore and Penelope Ann Miller come back, they find him dead. But you don't see him get killed or anything, just find his wheelchair, and that's it. So they had this plan to take some of the leaves and to try to freeze it, but that doesn't work. Then the rest of the survivors, they're safe. They get saved. They make it out through the tunnels. But then Tom Sizemore tells her to lock herself inside the research room until he'll try to fend it off. But as she locks herself in, the thing comes in from the other side where she is, and she runs and starts pushing all these jars that are flammable, and she also makes this kind of thing that if you throw it and it lands on the stuff, and it'll cause it to explode. And at times, yes, and once again, like Creature Effects by Stan Winston, there are times where the creature is CGI, but there are times I can tell that's really practical, modeled, But they still, I do like the touch. They still use practical effects on this creature, Even with with times when the CGI, like when it's running fast or it's climbing on the walls, yeah, you can obviously tell, but when it's up really up close, when it's up close to Penelope Ann Miller looking at her, you can tell it's not. So I do appreciate that, especially from 1997. So she throws that bottle, causes an explosion. It catches on fire, and she runs into this tank, this big tank. It has some kind of water in it, and then tells it to go to hell. And then the fire goes through all the room and then explodes. And then a CGI explosion, of course. Same thing with, I think it was pretty much the same CGI explosion they did with Deep Rising when the main creature exploded. But I think it was the same kind of explosion. And then the front of the rest of the medics and stuff. They find Tom Sizemore. They go back in the room. They extinguish all the rest of the fires. And they find her in the tank, and then Tom Sizemore, he tells Penelope Ann Miller, tells her to keep his lucky bullet, and he still still doesn't step over the piece of the body part of the creature, but she does, so because she's not superstitious. And then the film ends, and pretty much like, and also when I say every time the film ends with a film by Peter Hyams, and that's it. And then the film ends with the wash out of the museum going back, and that's it. So overall, I really do enjoy this film. I love this film. It's one of my favorite, on the list of my favorite monster or horror films. Greatly directed by Peter Hyams. This guy is a talented director. He has a unique way of making films. Even though this film is based on a novel, but I haven't read the novel, so I wouldn't care about reading the novel. I just prefer while watching the film, because even though there might be lots of differences in the novel, but I don't care about the novel. I just prefer the movie better. But so the film was on for 109 minutes. Like I said before, it opened up #1 though. Despite opening up #1, this film was a flop. It was a box office bomb, but made budget of $60 million total worldwide. It made only like $33 million worldwide in the United States, it says. So yeah, once again, another good film that bombs. And as a 5.5 IMDb, that's way too low for this film. I would say it could be very much higher. Has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. Once again, way too low. Should be higher. But and also not only did Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert said that they gave it a thumbs up, they also said that Gene Siskel said he described the film as it was surprisingly entertaining, which I agree. Roger was saying that the movie was clever in how it combines the conventions of the horror and disaster genres, and it's actually a lot of fun. And if you like special effects and gore, so yeah, I'm surprised that they actually really liked this film. Yeah, it has a lot of good special effects, and you got gore in there. Heads being torn off. Anything else? Checking if there's anything else. The film was nominated for multiple science fiction and fantasy awards, including Best Horror Film and Best Actress for Penelope Ann Miller at the 1997 Saturn Awards. I do really enjoy Tom Sizemore's character. Penelope Ann Miller, she does fine. I did like her. Not the best, probably a little bit less than Tom Sizemore, but she still does fine. I did like her. James Whitmore and Linda Hunt, they do fine as well. I think this is pretty much it, So it was a good. One other thing, I do have the poster. I have it. It's right here. And if you can see that, I know you can see the glare right there, but it's the poster. I have the poster right there. There you go. Even though it says 1996 right, it says 1996 right there, but it was released in '97 though. So. There's the poster right there. So, pretty much everything I want for. Yeah. Like I say, I really love the Relic. It's another one of my favorite all-time horror monster films. And there's another quote here from Gene Siskel. It says on the back of the DVD cover right here. It says, "The creature can hold its own with the alien. With the alien." Creature holds on. They can hold on like Alien did. I did like the special effects of the creature. Once we have a good mixture with CGI and practical effects. The cast does fine. I did like the premise of it, of putting a monster in a museum. And it's a really cool horror film. Really cool horror film. And I still enjoy it to this day. Even though I do wish that even though it's a cool looking cover, which is showing the monster's mouth though, but I still prefer like putting the cover as the poster there. But this is a cool. I still like this cover right here. Yeah. Anyway, so but check the film out if you haven't seen it. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll stay tuned for another horror film later.